Today, I want to give y'all a reason why Donald Trump is my president.
Welcome back. I'm here now with Gordon Chang. We just spoke with House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, and China says it is sending a special envoy on Middle Eastern affairs to the region to conduct mediation efforts, they claim. Beijing condemning the attacks earlier this week, now having to rely more on Russian oil due to massive supply disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz. China buys up to 80% of Iranian oil. Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that China is now accelerating production of submarines to attack the United States. Closer to home, writing, quote, China has been developing new submarine technology and a bigger, better fleet that is gaining on the United States and its allies, spurring a new undersea arms race in the Pacific.
We ain't got to worry about that no time soon. But they are in an arms race with regards to attacking America and threatening America. It's always been trying to gain influence surrounding America. This video is going to go particularly in, surrounding on how that has happened and how Donald Trump has come in to effectively thwart the China's whole scheme of trying to continuously challenge the American powers and gain influence on their own.
These subs that can strike U.S. from closer to home, the U.S. Navy is warning. Joining me now is Gatestone Institute Senior Fellow Gordon Chang. Gordon, that is some statement that the Navy has warned us about.
Yes. The Chinese, they don't actually need better submarines. All they need to do is stay close to their shores in what they call the bastion areas, like the Yellow Sea. But obviously, they do want subs to be able to get closer to the U.S. And by the way, we have Chinese submarines in the Arctic, which would be very, very close to Alaska and the homeland. So this is really an important development. And we have got to make sure that we have got the attack subs that can take out those ballistic missile submarines of the Chinese.
It's incredible. The Hudson Institute has reported that China armed Iran with advanced missiles. Every warhead carries Chinese components. We've reported on this program many times that China sends these components to Iran. The guidance systems, the propellant chemistry. China provided air defense systems to Iran. U.S. and Israeli strikes decimated them. And that China invested $100 billion in Iranian infrastructure. Clearly, China is on the side of Iran with all.
Clearly, they are on the side of Iran with all this. However, we don't have to worry about too much about China right now. And I'm going to give you a reason why. China is not a warmongering country. Its only ideas with regards to being number one in the first place, and to be number one, you have got to assume yourself into a position to take over the influence of the United States. First of all, took out Venezuela, basically. I don't want to say took them out, like, you know what I'm saying, because it actually was just taking control of it to the point to where you still allowing Venezuelans to actually control it, but you're just kicking China out. This new Iranian thing, when they go into it, you're going to end up finding out that this Iranian thing, this attacking Iranian thing, has really buckled the Chinese economy. First of all, it has a 20% unemployment rate now that manufacturing is coming back to the United States. China tried to threaten the United States as being the world's superpower. They trying to create BRICS with Russia, which is a currency, which to develop a currency that would devalue the American dollar. They just had this new mineral thing to where they said that they wanted to consolidate their minerals from being exported to competing countries. That's being more friendly with the United States, right? And so here they are now as Trump. See, I like to call Trump the big squeeze, because what he's done with just with the Venezuelan attack and with the Iranian attack, people don't understand that Israel was going to have to go in at it with Iran anyway. And what that was going to lead to was that was going to lead to an attack on America because Iranian evidently will feel that with the attack of Israel that the United States will get involved anyway. So here you are having China giving Iran all this weaponry in preparation for its attack, not just Israel, but America as well. China hasn't gotten into a war since 1979. Its last little skirmish was in 2020 with India, just over just over a borderline.
All of this, and then they want to send a Mideast envoy to go condemn the attacks today. How do you see this?
Well, first of all, that envoy is going to try to stop the United States from attacking Iran. And clearly what we should be doing is ignoring this guy. You know, the Chinese are an enemy combatant. That's the way we should treat them. They have been supplying Iran with all the components for their weapons, as you just talked about. Diplomatic support, propaganda support, elevated commodity purchases. Last year, 87.2% of Iran's exports of crude went to China. It's across-the-board support. And so the United States just needs to say, look, we want to stop this. We have to also impose costs on China.
Yeah, so why have we been buying drones from China for so long? I asked the chairman of the Intelligence Committee this yesterday. Rick Crawford was my special guest, and I want to get your take on this. I know at this point, we've stopped buying Chinese drones from DJI, but there's so many of them already in our arsenal. Here's what he told me yesterday. Watch this. Congressman, what about all of those drones right now in our arsenal that China made?
The drone manufacturing has moved so fast. Heck, I've got companies in my district that were engaged in this 10 years ago, but they were outpaced by the Chinese. They wanted to be able to offer these products to American farmers, but they couldn't keep pace because the technology changed so quick, and they were outfunded. And they had to go a different direction with it. So now we're reliant on these Chinese drones. We can't continue with that type of footing.
Do you believe this?
We was completely reliant on China for the creation of too many our goods, or the making of too many our goods. China is only become the world's second power because of America. And see, this is the thing to where you got to believe, like, you can't bite the hand that feeds you. And that's where we are at. If you want to reference this to some in your community, reference this to the point of how the Latino community wants us to go out there and protest with them, right? When they are being the beneficiaries of everything that you fought for. When they've been biting the hand that has helped them have success in this country. And here they are, and we've recognized this, and now here we are. When you voted a man into office, now here you are. You want us to go out there and protest with you and fight with you and do all. They're just putting it in simple terms, in simple ways. It's not to be racial. I don't care about being racial and nothing like that. But we just speaking truth of light. And so this is what China has been doing to the United States.
This operation in Iran is as much about China?
It's a very tenuous relationship. I know that they try to characterize this as an affable relationship, and I get it, because that personally they may have an exchange that may be favorable. But broadly speaking, the Chinese Communist Party is not our friend. This attack on Iran was not an attack on China, but it most certainly is an impact on China.
Has had impact already, hasn't it?
Well, it certainly has. You know, China did with drones what it's done with a lot of other things: solar panels, medicines. What they do is they flood the market because they give subsidies to domestic producers.
Yeah.
That prevents us from developing our manufacturers. So, of course, DJI had 70, 85% of the international drone market because this was predatory policies. We need those tariffs that President Trump has been putting in place because that is an emergency, and I think the Supreme Court got that one wrong.
Yeah, okay. So, and you know, to stop a president from using tariffs in an emergency when we've got emergencies all over the place, like 100,000 people dying of fentanyl every year. But let's...
Hell, just embargo them. Just put an embargo on China. It's to be that simple, because they are already hurting. The Chinese are not Americans' friends, and I don't know about y'all, but with the whole idea of being a foundational Black American and realizing that this is my country and that I don't want the white man to necessarily be out of power. Because with him out of power, it's like saying that with all the plays that has been going on and more recently, then it's like saying that I won't have any power. I won't have a country if the white man loses his country. And it's not to be racial and things like that. It's just, like I said, bringing truth to light. You got to think about that. Like, if I wanted to go to any other country and claim to be whatever, from wherever, whatever country, if I wanted to go to Canada and claim to be American, I can't claim to be Canadian. You know what I'm saying? I can't have a Canadian coming over here claiming this is their land. They gonna claim the land that's theirs. So it's only right that I appreciate all the moves that this man is doing in order to preserve this nation.
Let's talk about what's going on in China this week, because China's annual parliament meeting is beginning today. In Beijing, leaders there are expected to discuss and approve policies which they say will expand China's economy. They've got growth targets on the economy of between 4.5% and 5%. Gordon, is there any way in hell that China's economy is growing 5% right now, in your view?
No, that's what they reported for last year, 5.0. It was maybe 2.5 if they were lucky. Maybe there was no growth at all. You know, there was a
With the takeover of Iran, it's about to get much worse. This is probably going to be leading China into a bigger form of a civil war, because people were already mad because the manufacturing was starting to leave China after Donald Trump got into office. And now the unemployment rate in China is 20%.
Harvard Kennedy scholar who came back from a tour of China at the end of last year. He reported that the overall unemployment rate in China now is 20%. If you look at
an unemployment of 20%
overall, which means that youth unemployment is probably double that. That's inconsistent with the notion of 5.0% growth.
Yeah.
You know, they can say 4.5, 5.0 for this year, but it's probably going to be negative, and especially because China's in a deflationary period. By the way, with all of the problems in the Strait of Hormuz, gas prices in China up 11.0%. Diesel up 13.5%.
Yeah.
And the National Development and Reform Commission is telling refiners, don't export anything and cancel contracts if you can.
Well, it's this indirect message, which I love what President Trump is doing here, because he's always telling us what great friends they are. And at the same time, he's saying, OK, well, you want to, in so many words, you want to hold back critical minerals? Well, maybe you won't get the oil that you need, given the situation at hand. Axios sounding the alarm over the Pentagon's ban on Anthropic, saying that it could hurt America's AI advantage over China. They write this: the international race for AI advantage is not measured in years, but weeks and days. Alienating a leading American AI company and ripping and replacing existing tech could give other countries, especially China, a leg up. Now, Gordon, look, Anthropic, if you want to be a government contractor, you're not going to tell the government how to use your products, right? I mean, so on this issue, I'm not sure I agree with Axios. How do you see it?
Yeah. Well, the other thing, by the way.
Well, first and foremost, now that Iran has pretty much gone kaput and really just killed themselves, I mean, I don't know how the heck. I think, you know what I really think what happened with Iran and why Iran was just launching all these missiles? I think that this weaponry that they were getting from China was just probably so bad. This is just a theory, right? That this weaponry that they was getting from China was so bad that either they didn't know how to use the weaponry, they weren't trained on how to use the weaponry, or the missile guidance systems or whatever technology that China has in those missiles were just bad. Like, they were sending them duds. You know what I'm saying? And these missiles end up landing in countries, primarily, probably your thought, but because I can't tell you where they were primarily aiming at. But they were just so bad that these missiles landed in countries that wasn't supposed to be landing into, because there was a couple of videos of these missiles that Iran has actually overshooting their targets and going into the waters. And with this issue with regards to AI Trump is going to win on this. All you got to do is put an embargo on China because you will have China reliant on Russia. So much so, and they're not going to be able to compete in the AI race if they have to primarily rely on Russian oil. First of all. Second of all, China needs Iranian coal for its data centers. This coal help keep those data centers cool.
Is that Anthropic is now trying to de-escalate the conflict, and it's now resumed negotiations with the Department of War, which means that probably they will kiss and make up. And that's important because I would like to make sure that Anthropic and OpenAI, support the Defense Department in the way the Defense Department wants.
Well, I understand that, but the only thing that worried me about the Anthropic statement, and this was really stunning, the CEO of Anthropic had this stunning ways to say that they don't want Claude, its main product, to be used for mass domestic surveillance.
Also, the autonomous firing of weapons. Now, we know the Chinese are using AI for that particular purpose.
Yeah.
So it's important that we be able to use our AI in the ways that the Chinese are. It's just really important.
Well, I think Anthropic needs to explain itself. You can't just say and suggest that the U.S. is doing mass domestic surveillance without explaining yourself.
Right. And all Anthropic is, well, all the Defense Department wants to do is say, look, if it's legal, we can use your AI. And of course that makes common sense.
Right. Gordon, great to get your take on all of this. So fascinating. Thank you, Gordon Chang. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Okay, so with the port of Hormuz, the Strait of Hormuz, this completely just out of Iranian control now. Now, China has to maneuver. This play on the Middle East has completely changed the game when it comes to China. Like I said, its resources in terms of its energy has pretty much gone down to simply Russia. Either they're going to have to buy oil from, they should have never did that play to where they were trying to withhold all their rare earth minerals and out the marketplace to where they weren't going to allow any country to, purchase their rare earth minerals, that they were going to concentrate it and build up themselves with regards to that. That was an emotional play that they should have never did. But however, openly they have been in a conflict with the United States, and now the United States has got them on their heels, and the United States at this moment shouldn't let up. The United States at this moment should consider nationalism, should be considering rebuilding back up the country, bringing that manufacturing back. All them jobs that went to China that supported all this military buildup that Iranian had to go on this little rampage that they want to go on in Iran. Pretty much, and it gets bad because they were abusing their own people. They were terrorizing their own people. It's not like they were being good to their people necessarily. If you look at a video from the 1980s and bring that into now, you will see the women being treated different in Iran than they was, in these times. Back then, they didn't have to cover up. Iranian woman can look like an American woman. You really couldn't even tell what country it was if it wasn't for like a little tone of darker skin color. And so China has put Iran in a position where it could dictate too much. It could be a totalitarian system to where they don't have to primarily, just have humanism, a care for their people, more than having this hammer buckled over their head, getting knocked over their head in order for them to come under control. And this is primarily what China has done, pretty much tried to do in their country, while you see a lot of Chinese wanting to come over here to this country, right? And it's really about to get worse now that the Chinese economy is about to collapse. But, like I said, if China wants to put so much effort into becoming number one, right? Even if it was to go to war, it would lose at this moment. But if they want to put so much effort into being number one, and that looks bad for America, knocking America down to number two, you go after all these other countries to help you in pursuit of that, particularly with Russia and Iran. Then you go into Venezuela. We were being surrounded. We were being surrounded with Chinese and Russian influence. Here we are, and I don't know why China relies on Russia so much. So I guess because, you know, militarily, but China has always knew that its population was a deterrent from it being attacked. However, what this is exposing is that China's weaponry sucks. It sucks, bro. So American technology is so much more advanced that the only way it can necessarily win is with AI. But if your weaponry sucks, and see that where the problem comes in, because if we having China's making things like our drones, here we are, we're giving them the technology. We're giving all the technological advances to them without allowing our manufacturers to actually develop something that would actually be that much more better than China. And see, this is why this comes full circle where why President Trump is my president and why President Trump is handling this situation better than any other president, and while China is getting what it deserves. Let me say it right. Let me say it in a different way. Let me say it's getting back what they pushed out. They're getting back what they pushed out. And it's necessarily about time, because when I look at my community and I see all the jobs that was outsourced to China that could have been filled by, white people, black people, United States citizens, and how we have like completely gone into a state of more being a service economy instead of a manufacturing economy. Instead of having these jobs to where you see grown men being able to work in factories, and then you got to think about it like this as well. And why I like the whole idea of Donald Trump having this whole idea of bringing the American ethos back, because how many of these illegal immigrants gonna really be ready to stand up and fight for America if China was to attack America? How many of them illegal immigrants is gonna be ready to run back across the border or go back home to their countries if an attack does happen, if America does decide to go into war, if China and Russia do make an attempt to try to invade this country? How many of them people are going to leave and be concerned about this land? Tiny Cross-H.U.G on the Trumped Up Live Show. Always remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It's a good day. Be a soldier.